So today I thought it'd be fun to talk about the sorting hat. So the sorting hat, the hat actually places students on qualities they value, not on qualities they personify. And the hat sometimes senses qualities in students and places them in a house that will challenge them the most. If the hat believes that a student values bravery over anything else, it will sort them into Gryffindor. If it believes the student values intelligence over anything else, it'll sort them into Ravenclaw. If the value is hard worker, it'll sort them into Hufflepuff. And if the value is hungry for power, it sorts them into Slytherin. Let's take a look at the history of the sorting hat, and we can learn some of this in the hat's own words. Quote, 1,000 years or more ago, when I was newly sown, there lived 4 wizards of renown, whose names are still well known. Bold Gryffindor from Wildmoor, fair Ravenclaw from Glen, sweet Hufflepuff from Valley Brood, shrewd Slytherin from Fen. They shared a wish, a hope, a dream. They hatched a daring plan to educate young sorcerers. Thus Hogwarts School began. Now each of these 4 founders formed their own house, for each did value different virtues in the ones they had to teach. By Gryffindor the bravest were prized far beyond the rest. For Ravenclaw the cleverest would always be the best. For Hufflepuff hard workers were most worthy of admission, and power-hungry Slytherin loved those of great ambition. While still alive, they did divide their favorites from the throng, yet now to pick the worthy ones when they were dead and gone. 'Twas Gryffindor who found the way, he whipped me off his head. The founders put some brains in me, so I could choose instead. Now slip me snug about your ears. I've never yet been wrong. I'll have a look inside your mind and tell where you belong. Before the hat was bewitched, Godric Gryffindor, Rowena Ravenclaw, Helga Hufflepuff, and Salazar Slytherin would manually sort students by themselves into each house, but they knew this selection process would actually outlive them. So the magical hat at Hogwarts decided it would determine which of the 4 houses each new student belonged to. These houses were Ravenclaw, Slytherin, Gryffindor, and Hufflepuff, and it was a dirty, old, tarnished hat that was bewitched by all 4 of the founders. The sorting hat originally belonged to Godric Gryffindor and was enchanted to use legilimens to interpret people's thoughts and respond to them. The moment of consideration by the hat varies in time period from less than a second to over 5 minutes. If it takes over 5 minutes, this is known as a hat stall. Legend says that the hat was sewn roughly 1,000 years ago and was a normal hat from Godric Gryffindor that he pulled off his head, and the others enchanted it with combined intelligence. If the hat does not detect magical ability, it is true, the hat will not sort you into a house. In 1858, Angus Buchanan, an 11-year-old Scottish squib, snuck into Hogwarts during the festival and put the hat on his head. The hat said, "You are a good-hearted chap, but no wizard," and the student wasn't sorted. Godric's sword is one of the only known relics that could be pulled out of the hat by only a worthy Gryffindor. Harry Potter accomplished this in 1992 in the Chamber of Secrets. Also, Neville Longbottom pulled the sword out of the hat during the Battle of Hogwarts. The hat would sing a song each year before sorting each student. These would vary in length. It is said that the hat would spend the entire year making up a song for the next year and could sometimes predict danger. The hat does have a sense of humor and has a very large, expansive memory. There have been 2 true hat stall cases in history. Minerva McGonagall, she took over 5 minutes for the hat to sort her. The hat debated whether or not to put her in Ravenclaw, but decided to put her in Gryffindor. Also, Peter Pettigrew. The sorting hat needed more than 5 minutes to decide whether Peter Pettigrew should be sorted in Gryffindor or Slytherin. He was a true hat stall. The hat decided on Gryffindor, but this has been considered a mistake by many, but the sorting hat itself never considered it a mistake. Difficult sortings that occurred. The hat does consider a witch and wizard's opinion. The hat debated for a long time sorting Harry Potter into Slytherin, possibly due to Harry's scar, which was a fragment of Voldemort's soul. But you ultimately sorted Harry into Gryffindor after Harry's persistent thoughts, but said in Harry's second year, you would have done well in Slytherin. However, the hat did not make a mistake. Multiple times, Harry has shown his bravery, and only a true Gryffindor could pull Godric Gryffindor's sword from the hat, which Harry showed this in his second year. Another very difficult case was Hermione Granger. She is considered the brightest witch of her age, and the hat debated whether or not to sort her into Ravenclaw. Quote from Terry Boot, "How come you're not in Ravenclaw?" Terry Boot demanded, staring at Hermione with something close to wonder. "With brains like yours." Hermione, quote, "Well, the sorting hat did seriously consider putting me in Ravenclaw during my sorting," said Hermione brightly, "but it decided on Gryffindor in the end." Hermione was almost a hat stall. Her mark was at 4 minutes. Hat stalls usually occur when students' personalities could very well fit in other houses. This usually occurs about every 50 years. Considering the hat can take into account personal preference as well, this could have been the case for Hermione. We can see in Hermione's own words why the sorting hat would have debated putting her in Gryffindor instead of Ravenclaw. Hermione on the Hogwarts Express, quote, "I've been asking around, and I hope I'm in Gryffindor. It sounds by far the best. I heard Dumbledore himself was one, but I suppose Ravenclaw wouldn't be too bad." Reminder, the sorting hat chooses where to put a student based on where the student determines its values are, not because of the student's personality. So we can see again through another quote of Hermione on why the sorting hat chose to put her in Gryffindor. The question is, does Hermione value bravery over intelligence? This is answered through Hermione's own words. Quote, "I'm not as good as you," said Harry, really embarrassed. "Me," said Hermione. "Books and cleverness, there are more important things. Friendship and bravery, and, oh Harry, be careful." End quote. This shows that Hermione valued bravery over anything else, so the sorting hat didn't make a mistake and put her in Gryffindor instead of Ravenclaw. Other difficult cases were Phileas Flitwick. The sorting hat actually debated putting Flitwick into Gryffindor, but put him in Ravenclaw instead. He later, as a professor, joked with McGonagall because of their opposite experiences. Neville Longbottom. The sorting hat took a long time placing Neville. Neville argued he was best in Hufflepuff, but the hat argued otherwise and placed Neville in Gryffindor. This proved the correct decision because Neville showed great bravery during the Battle of Hogwarts and pulled the sword of Gryffindor from the hat, which only a true Gryffindor can do. In this case, too, it really showed that the hat puts people where they can challenge themselves the most. Gilderoy was Lockhart in Slytherin, but he ended up placing him in Ravenclaw. There has been cases where Ravenclaw students flunked exams and Slytherins have acted selflessly, but the hat still makes its choice clear on that it's what the students truly value and it has never made a mistake. What are your thoughts on the sorting hat? What are some of your favorite magical artifacts from the Harry Potter universe? If you would like to know more about Harry Potter and the Wizarding World lore, subscribe to Chase and Josh Factor Fantasy Podcast. The link is in the bio, or you can subscribe to Ridiculous Patronus on YouTube. Thank you, everyone. Have a magical week.